everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
So, Melissa, I stopped doing a whole bunch of things in the past few weeks.
A whole bunch. Well, I know you did the whole social media thing. That part I remember.
Yep. So, I stopped going on social media. I actually deleted it off my phone. I stopped drinking. I haven't had any alcoholic adult beverages in a while. And I've been trying to I don't know, cleanse, it sounds like whatever, but I'm just trying to get rid of everything in my life that pulls on me.
Oh.
That makes me have an inkling to go have it, check it, look at it, interact with it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because
why?
I just didn't like the feeling. Well, I don't know. I was sitting back thinking, and I was I don't like the feeling that when I wake up in the morning, I have this compulsion to go look at Facebook. And I didn't really like that, in the evening, I kind of had this pull to oh, I'll go have a glass of wine. Even though I don't, it's not, it wasn't even in a social setting.
Yeah.
Just I just didn't like that I had these things in my life that, I wouldn't say were controlling me, but were certainly pulling on me.
Yeah, almost habitual, becoming habitual.
Yeah,
or being
habits, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this idea because I've actually been toying with this a little bit myself. Certainly I have noticed more the feeling of when something is tugging at me. I've definitely noticed the feeling of that more. And you're right, the social media thing that's a big thing. So even if it's not Facebook, it could be the gram, but even you can lull yourself into feeling like you don't have issues with that, or you're not habitually addicted to it. But if you say that it's for work, if you say, well, I only go on LinkedIn or...
I totally tried exactly what you're saying. I did actually, my first go was I will delete Facebook, but I can't delete LinkedIn because I have to check that for work.
Yeah.
And then what I started doing is I just literally, it's because it's the same thing. It's the same feed of things, and it makes your brain. Yeah. It tugs on your brain just the same as Facebook or Instagram or any of the rest of it.
The scroll.
So I'm then what I replaced my Facebook habit with a morning LinkedIn habit. I'm this isn't useful. This is the same thing. So I deleted LinkedIn too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't delete LinkedIn.
But okay, and here's the interesting thing, that I deleted those, and I thought, what I'll do is I'll just use them on my computer.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll actually, I'll still interact with them. I'm not saying I don't ever want to go on any social media platform, but I'm I will be the one who chooses when I engage with it versus it being on. Your phone is such an intimate thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I think is funny? How many do you? Is your phone next to your bed?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So when you wake up with it, what's the first thing you do? Grab?
Yeah.
Is it, do you give your loving husband a big hug in the morning when you wake up?
Don't be ridiculous.
You cuddle with your phone. Tell me. A ridiculous comment. No, right? People literally are coddling their phone as the last thing they do before they go to bed and the first thing they do in the morning. It's a very intimate relationship, and it's it's in our hand all day. It's in our pocket. It's in our purse. Yeah. It's with us. It's
it's an addiction.
Such an
it has become an addiction.
connection.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember what it was. I saw some little blip on phones. I don't remember if it was like the morning show or something like that, like a little news blip on it. And they were comparing a phone to the same thing as a cigarette addiction. Because a lot of times if you're a smoker, you will, the last thing you'll do is have a smoke before you go to bed. And certainly the first craving that
morning.
you have when you get up is to reach for a cigarette. And phones are very much that way. You know, it's so I don't know if I would call it an addiction. I think it is addiction for some, but even if you back out of that word and just go down a couple of stair steps, there's still cravings, very deep cravings. There's still a habit, you know, the habits that you form that you are unaware of. And those are they are controlling. They feel very controlling.
They're controlling. And you know, like I run software company, so like being like, I'm not anti-phone and I'm not being anti-technology.
No,
I
know you're not.
I kind of sometimes
maybe it
feel
sounded
like
we were, but
beat that drum a little bit. Your phone can be super useful. I mean, being able to like basically look up anything fact on Google instantly and have an infinite brain and have directions and have, you know, like alarms, and I have reminders and email. Like there's so much good about it. Yeah. But
that good is also
just making sure how it is affecting your brain. And you know, like I talk quite a bit about the idea that like a lot of our actions are still driven by like our primitive monkey brain, and that we haven't really evolved as much as we like to think we have. Yeah. And a lot of instinctual drivers are still lurking under there, controlling our day-to-day action. And the idea that our brain has somehow adapted within the last 10 years to use a device as sophisticated as a infinitely big computer in your pocket is kind of silly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but really the core of what we're talking about right now are these habits or addictions or controlling mechanisms within our own psyche that make us not feel like we have control over ourselves, right? And so it doesn't even we've been talking a lot about this morning, just talking about technology, talking about phones. Yeah. But there are
there's a lot of other things that are that do it. Like certainly drugs and alcohol will do it. Yeah. Lots of other things. Tobacco. Like you can have tobacco, like even like sex or porn can definitely have a similar pull. Yeah. But you know, there's all sorts of things that will pull on your attention and your thoughts will go to continually until they're kind of like satisfied.
Yeah. And what you've just named are like the common ones that people have talked about forever. But you know what? There's a whole bunch of everyday ones. There's a whole bunch of everyday ones. Like even just the control of a habit that you formed because you really liked it and it was healthy and it made you happy, but then it stops doing that. Like, for example, if you decide that you want to have a better routine in the morning, and so you want to have like a better breakfast, or you want to get up 10 minutes earlier and do something for yourself, journal, meditate, anything like that, and you are desperately trying to form a new habit because you feel like that would be better for you in all ways, right? So even with the best of intention of trying to create something that is better for you that you feel good about can also cause some bit of control that doesn't feel good anymore. Because if you don't get a certain outcome, or you aren't able to make the leap into this way of being, it also pulls on you. So then what ends up happening is you start to avoid doing those things and then feeling really bad about them, and you're feeling controlled by that same topic anyway, right? So I mean, I think it comes at us in a lot of different ways. Like that that idea that even when we try to have good things to control us, that pull makes us not feel like we're in charge of our own faculties.
Yeah, totally.
And that doesn't feel good.
You talk about your morning routine. I was like, what part of my morning routine is controlling me? I'm like, oh, it's the toothpaste industry demanding that I brush my teeth every day. Well, so I started the reason I started really kind of thinking about this and analyzing this was actually from our New Year's conversation
Yeah.
around setting goals. And this idea that, and I'm reading a book. Of course, I'm reading a book. I was talking about this a little bit. What's the name of the book I was reading? I'm going to space it now. But this book is about discipline. So it's by Ryan Holiday, the guy that does a lot of like, takes kind of like old philosophy and applies it to modern day. Discipline is destiny or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, I was thinking about discipline, right? This is why I started this, like, down this track.
Oh,
because I was thinking about discipline, and I was like, okay, like, we had talked about before how, like, I spent a good chunk of my life just randomly wandering through the woods with no plan.
Yeah.
Wandering through life with no plan. And then the past couple of years, I've had more of a plan, and it kind of has been working for me.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I like the result of it. And I kind of took that from, like, business planning and kind of applied it a little bit to, like, JJ life planning.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, what's, like, the next level of discipline?
Oh,
what's,
here
like,
we
the
go.
next
See?
level of rigor?
Gosh, here we go. Here's the slippery
Okay,
slope of control.
I'm totally not committing to this right now.
Okay.
But I'm okay. Like, you give me full permission to back out from what I'm about to say.
Yes.
But
Yes, indeed.
do not hold me. This is not an accountability
Let me just
buddy
get my pen
part
real
of the
quick.
conversation.
Yeah, okay.
This is just me telling you a thing I was thinking about.
Okay.
But the idea that maybe for a year, this is what I was saying, maybe for a year, maybe for 2023, I live like what if I took a year and did like a hyper disciplined life, like very regimented on like food, exercise, morning routine, like super disciplined, no vices, right? Like only
Clean living. Straight up.
super clean, goal tracking, goal oriented. Like, what happens if you get to like that hyper disciplined space for a year?
Okay. What do you want to get out of it?
I just, I like just trying things. I don't know.
What happens? Do you have a family during this year? I'm just curious. Just got a couple questions. The coach in me is just hopping to the forefront of this conversation.
Well, why would they care? Why would they care if I...
Have you lost it? Have you? You've lost it. Let me answer for you. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Why?
Because you wanted to have a conversation about what controls you, and look at what you're suggesting, that you become the most controlled person in the universe for an entire year.
But okay, I get it, but I'm not like the idea. Fair enough. But the idea, no, like listen, okay, so like the idea that I don't want anything external to control me. But what are those external things? Those like the impulse to do those things are me. They're not actually external things that are controlling me. Like, I'm doing it, right?
Yes.
So the idea that the way to combat things controlling you is to actually be super disciplined about not letting yourself get into those habits.
Okay.
There's a logical path here.
No,
Melissa,
it's absolutely not logic. Well, yeah, it's straight logic, and it's like, okay, all right. Listen to what you just said. Okay, you said this is where we pivot. You said that the way to get around other things controlling me is to be so disciplined that nothing controls me except me. But here's the little flawed premise No disrespect intended.
I like to hear it. Let's hear
Here's
it.
the flawed premise in that.
Okay.
The flawed premise is that you are actually what controls you all the time anyway.
I know. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was trying to say.
Okay. So by saying you're going to become
Yeah.
ultra disciplined is really just fodder. It's just fodder because what's controlling you today is you. That's what's
Okay.
controlling you today. Whether there's
So-
discipline in it or not is still a core base response to something on the outside. Your internal mechanism is making a core basic decision on how to respond to something else. And whether that decision is made multiple times a day till it becomes a habit or multiple times an hour or what have you till it becomes an addiction, it's the same timeline. It's the same energy line we're talking about. Oh, you should see
Okay.
his face, everybody, you guys.
So-
He's swinging in his chair and his eyes are up.
I'm rolling my eyes. Can't even see my pupils anymore. Wow, we don't get into a conversation where that often that,
No.
that we are so
We're
divisive
no,
on
yeah,
a topic.
I don't. Most people are listening to this and going, "Wait, is this it? Is this your divisive? Is this being divisive?" No, but
Try to control me, Melissa.
stop wrecking my jam.
So okay. So what you're saying is, like, if, like, okay, let's just like
Yeah, let's
say
just
let's take drinking.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Now that's like a
Yeah.
heavy topic, and there's a lot
Yeah.
around that. But I'm just going to use it as a fairly accessible
Okay.
example.
Okay.
Like, if I don't want to drink anymore,
Yeah.
what's my path to that?
Yep.
Like, the idea that I would just walk around life and respond to any impulse I want,
Mm-hmm.
and also try to not respond to that one,
Mm-hmm.
but not in any way that has any rigidity around
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, how do I stop that habit
Mm-hmm.
or even that addiction without having a very disciplined approach towards
Okay.
not doing it.
Okay. I hear you, and that's a fair question. That's a fair question. That's not an all or nothing. That's a very specific topic with a very specific
Yeah.
outcome. Okay.
Yeah, but if you so like you could take that as an example. It's pretty clear. But where I'm going is a little farther, is to say, hey, like, let's even apply that same kind of discipline to exercise, to diet, to any like spirituality.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
to
Right. Anything. Could
work,
be anything.
to cleaning my house, to like to a whole bunch of things, right? And so, like, if you start applying this kind of rigor to across the board
Yeah.
in your life, to lots of things that you think are important, what's the result of that? Right? And you're kind of proposing, like, you become an unbearable human to be around.
Well, yeah, the way you posed it the
And I'm
first
proposing
time,
I'm going to get a lot done.
you would get a lot done alone in a box.
I can now I'm just like I can have a disciplined life and not be an asshole.
Yeah,
I think I can
know,
accomplish
but
those two things simultaneously.
Yeah, but you were like all in, like shift everything about your life at one time for an entire year. And to me, we can start talking about goal setting, right? Like you talk about goal setting, you talk about the intensity of goal setting in this description versus the gentle goal setting. Like, I think there's on a continuum. But here's the piece, and to be fair, I do hear what you're saying. Like, there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. However, the thing that you haven't talked about that I think we have to talk about is the energy. Is the energy in which it takes to shift something, or to have even the awareness that something that you want something to be adjusted because it feels like control. Like, that whole piece takes a lot for people. It's energetically taxing to evaluate and really shift up something that you're doing. It's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just it is an energy drain. So So if you and the more that you have a habit, the more you have allowed something to come into your life that you consistently do all the time.
Yeah.
Wow, it is a
So-
lot.
Let me think about that. So, like the thing, maybe you're saying is that let me spit this back to you
Yeah.
in a different way. It's like
Yeah,
it's like it takes effort to change these things.
yeah,
It's like say you have to like, whatever. Like it's like lifting a brick. Like okay, I gotta work on one. I lift one brick.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is like, hey JJ, if you're gonna go try to change like 10 things, you're going to try to be lifting like 10 bricks simultaneously.
Right.
And that's going to be beyond you. Like you can't do all 10 at the same time. So it's
Yeah.
not like you go flip a switch and become this ultra disciplined person across all these facets of your life simultaneously.
Yeah.
Because you simply will not have enough energy to do it.
Well,
And you'd fail or you'd just become like a total wreck of a
or
person.
you'd be
for a while.
unbearably unhappy. You'd be unbearably
Maybe.
unhappy because oftentimes the things that you do repetitively have been done because it gives you some sort of calm. It gives you some sort of. I'm not making it
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Like some of this stuff is stuff that isn't healthy for us. Some of these tactics that we have
Mm-hmm.
adopted aren't healthy, but they certainly got us over a hump at some point. And
Yeah.
it
They were
got
there
us,
for a
They were
reason.
there for a reason. And now if you've outgrown that need, it's just like anything else. Once you've outgrown that need, there is a natural time for us to sort of slough that off. But out of guilt or control or some sort of constrictive emotion, a lot of times we won't then. Then we'll
Yeah.
be just like, well, no, I don't really want to stop doing that because that does give me like some joy. Okay, like drinking, for example. Neither one of us are big drinkers. Like we drink, like socially, drink at home or whatever. I mean, since the pandemic, my alcohol consumption has increased certainly to probably something 5 days a week. I don't know. Where before it would be once every 2 weeks. Like I
Yeah,
just am not,
right.
right? However, so at the time, it was something to do. It was fun. It was, well, what else? What
Yeah.
else are we going to be, right? I'm
What
not
else are we
going
gonna do?
anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've kind of come out of that in the cocoon of our homes, and a lot of people are making an adjustment again, like, ooh, boy, it's dinner time, and now I'm just reaching for a beer or I'm reaching for
Yeah.
a wine or something. That's weird. I never used to do that. Okay, so
Yep.
do I really want that? Well, I kind of do because now I have this, I'm used to it.
The habit, right?
Yeah.
The intersection between like addiction, habit, compulsion.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting
It is-
like
it is.
line and slope,
Right.
and it's different for different people. It's different for different things and actions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but it's interesting. I found it like kind of fun to think about the things in my life that were in that
Yeah.
category.
Yeah, I agree. Like for me, when we're talking about, like when we're talking about social media, like I have really scaled back on the ones that I will participate in, or even the length of time that I participate in. I find them boring now. However, like LinkedIn, I'll still be on because there's a lot of reasons for my business that I actually have to do that. But I find myself dreading when I do. I just think, oh, I don't.
Yeah, take it off your phone. Put a calendar thing on your.
Oh,
on your
that's a
calendar
good
that says,
idea.
like this is when I go check in on LinkedIn to make sure that things are
That's
good.
a really good idea. And I think like right here is sort of that soft spot of noticing what you feel controlled by. Because I think, the self-awareness journey is all about self-awareness. And I think the main thing that we're talking about is recognizing the feelings that you have within yourself that make it not feel good, make anything
Yeah.
not feel good. And being able to objectively, look at something and say, does this serve me right now anymore? And if it doesn't, if that feeling feels more constricted or it feels more negative or it feels like it's a drain or like you feel like it's hard to get away from it, well, then I think that's a really good thing to notice and then to try to decide what you want to do with it. Like you talked about the drinking thing. Well, a lot of people will do dry October, dry January, right? Well, they'll take one whole month and not drink anything and then
Yep.
evaluate. And boy, a lot of people say, oh, I really miss it. I really miss it. And then at the end, they'll be like, you know what? I'm just going to keep going. I have several friends
Yeah.
who have said that. I'm just going to keep going. I don't really need to drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting,
That's interesting.
Yeah, there's different ways to approach these topics without it being all or nothing. And so I guess you know me,
Yep.
I'm always anti-zealot when it comes to
What?
any broad topic that goes to an extreme.
Yeah, it's funny. I never really thought of myself maybe as like an all or nothing kind of person.
Oh, my
but like
goodness.
looking, okay, thank you.
I love you.
Yeah, I was
still
gonna
love
say
you.
like, oh, like looking at my past, like, oh yeah, when I do my like no sugar months and I do my weird diet nutrition things, like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I guess I am
Well,
a
one thing
little
I
bit
always
black and white in those ways.
Yeah, but one thing I always really appreciate about you is you like a little competition in your life. You like that. And you like to compete against yourself too, and you enjoy that. Like not for the ego win, but just because you're like you think it's fun and you think you're curious about it. And so whenever you've done these kinds of interesting short-term blips, it's usually, you know, that's usually what it's about. It's something in there.
Yeah, you're right. It's like me against myself.
Yeah,
I kind of like that,
yeah.
playing that game.
Yeah, because you're not competitive against others in day-to-day experiences except tennis and pickleball.
Yeah, well, I don't. I try to not show that.
Oh, okay. They know already, JJ. Anyway, do you know what I think is super funny? Look at the mug I'm using for our conversation. It says, "Don't half-ass anything. Always use your full ass."
There you go.
This seems like a perfect mug for today's topic.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
I think all of our listeners should take to Facebook, go on the self-awareness journey page.
Yes.
And then tell us, like, should JJ have
Oh,
a
yes.
ultra disciplined year, or should he just take Melissa's like lackadaisical la la land way of living? Like, which one?
Oh, that's me, all right. La la la. I love it.
And I'm not gonna go check it anyway, so
I
it doesn't
am.
really matter what you put in
Actually,
there.
I'm going to pose this question on the Facebook page and on the LinkedIn page. I'm going to. And I'm not going to call it Melissa's lackadaisical approach.
You're not making it easy for me to not want to go check that stuff, Melissa.
I'm going to post it as Melissa's realistic and thought out plan.
All right, cool. Well, that's it for me. I'm off to go check social media now.
And I'm going to go start smoking.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.